Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the globe. It is my honor to welcome all of you to this World Investment Forum, the segment of the Ministerials. And the theme of today's Ministerial Roundtable is Investment for Sustainable Development. Our speakers this afternoon include ministers from 24 countries, including the Vice President of Venezuela. Without further ado, it's my great honor to invite the Secretary General of UNCTAD, Ms. Rebecca Greenspan, to make her opening statement. Secretary General of UNCTAD, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, James. Let me greet everyone, dear Vice President, ministers, and vice ministers that are here with us today. Thank you for accompanying us. Dear colleagues from international organizations, excellencies, it is my pleasure to open this ministerial roundtable on investment for sustainable development, a central topic of this World Investment Forum. In a few minutes, we will hear from different ministers from different geographies and backgrounds talking about the most urgent issues. I only have a few minutes, and I would like to share with you UNCTAD's thought leadership on this topic. Let me start with some background numbers. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a dramatic fall in global foreign direct investment last year, dropping by 35%. This number, so we have a comparison, is 20% below the bottom reached in the global financial crisis. So global FDI during this last decade has been very underwhelming, especially in terms of the most productive types of investment, like greenfield investment in industrial and infrastructure projects. This is very worrying in terms of achieving the 2030 agenda. We are now in a more difficult position than we were 6 years ago to achieve the SDGs. Progress towards the SDGs in the developing world was almost wiped out by the pandemic, and it remains to be seen how fast we can recoup these losses. The recovery from this crisis is very uneven, and we could say, in fact, that we have two divergent trajectories, with the developed world vaccinating and growing at rates that are multiples of the developing countries. At the onset of the 2030 agenda, we at UNCTAD estimated that there was a $2.5 trillion annual financial gap in developing countries to achieve it. The OECD estimated that because of COVID-19, that annual financial gap has widened to $4 trillion at least for 2021. The scale and magnitude of these challenges call for a coherent policy approach. This coherent policy approach should touch on three key interrelated challenges. First, the need to invest in resilience. Second, the need to invest in infrastructure and industry stimulus. And third, the need to address the many implementation challenges developing countries face. Dear ministers, dear Vice President, the global value of public recovery funds for long-term investment is already approaching $3.5 trillion, with sizable initiatives still in the pipeline. Considering the potential to use these funds to draw in additional private funds, the total investment firepower of recovery plans could exceed $10 trillion, according to our UNCTAD's projection. For comparison, that is close to 1/3 of the total SDG investment gap estimated at the time of their adoption. The problem is that the bulk of recovery finance has been set aside by advanced economies, mainly for infrastructure and energy transition projects, and only a few for large emerging markets. Developing countries only account for 10% of the total recovery spending plans, only 10%. That said, the magnitude of these plans and the spillover effects, positive and negative, it entails, will transform international project finance and investment flows, no doubt. So using international project finance to deploy recovery funds can maximize their potential if we are able to overcome two very important weaknesses. The first is a challenge that consistently emerges from our investment policy reviews: the lack of a pipeline of viable and bankable projects in many developing countries. Building such a pipeline requires good governance and technical capacity. Without it, capital available for investment will continue to sit on the sidelines of the emerging world. A second challenge relates to the implementation and absorptive capacity for investment. Current recovery plans imply an increase in global infrastructure spending of, at a minimum, 3 times the biggest annual increment of the last decade. This will likely remain so for several years running. So the question is very clear. Will demand create its own supply? How can we make sure these investments are both efficient and sustainable, and that they will be distributed equitable between the countries of the world? There are positive signs so far. Current infrastructure investment stimulus plans tend to be aligned with SDG investment and are in fact part of the country's negotiation commitments for the COP26. Indeed, our latest data shows that a recovery of international investment in SDGs relevant sectors is underway. The problem is that it continues to bypass developing countries, with the exception of China. Even more so for the LDCs, for the least developed countries, where the SDGs investment is still shrinking in the first half of 2021. So the distribution is bypassing the developing world that is suffering the most from this pandemic. So it is urgent we turn this around. To do this, let me just highlight a few initiatives included in UNCTAD's Action Plan for Investment in the SDGs. UNCTAD calls for innovative SDG financial instruments that leverage public sector finance. We call for support to absorptive capacity for investment in sustainable development, including through SDG model economic zones. And 3, targeting investment based on SDG impact indicator, such as the ones we have developed at the firm level reporting. Ladies and gentlemen, to sum up, we at UNCTAD believe that the drive on the part of all governments to build better can indeed boost investment in sustainable growth. But this will not happen on its own, and we cannot take it for granted. Unless we revert unequal financial flows and support investment absorption and implementation strategies, this $10 trillion investment firepower, the highest we have had in history, will bypass developing countries. And this will make that we miss this opportunity to rebuild not only better, but differently. And not only differently, but together. For the moment, we are building back apart. I very much look forward to hearing your ideas today on how the international community, individual countries, and other investment for development stakeholders can make use of this opportunity that we should and we shall take advantage of. I yield the floor to you. I am really looking forward to hear you, and I really thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General of UNCTAD, Rebecca Greenspan. May I now invite ministers to give us their country's perspective on key priorities at the national and international investment policymaking in the coming years, and elaborate on the specific approaches they adopt to accelerate investment in priority sectors for sustainable recovery. First up, Her Excellency, Ms. Delcy Rodriguez, Vice President and Minister of People's Power of Economy, Finance and Foreign Trade of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Muy buenas tardes.
A very good afternoon to each and every participant in this World Investment Forum, which this year is addressing the topic of investment in sustainable development. On behalf of President Nicolas Maduro, I'd like to convey to you all my warmest greetings, particularly to the Secretary General of the United Nations Commission for Trade and Development, Ms. Rebecca Greenspan, who has only recently taken over the post, but has very much hit the ground running with a very intense agenda of work. The topic, investment in sustainable development, is one that brings me to refer to the 2012 Johannesburg Declaration, which we used as a tool to define sustainable development as a process by which, and here I draw from the text, that we satisfy the economic and social needs as well as ensuring cultural diversity and a healthy environment for the current generation without putting or jeopardizing the future for future generations. Investment in the world to date, it has to be said, has not guaranteed or indeed promoted sustainable development. We see striking and glaring imbalances in various parts of the world. Rather, current investment patterns have served to concentrate further power and wealth in the hands of the few and the major powers. We look at poverty and we see reflected inequality. The pandemic further exacerbated this, with tens of millions of people who lost their jobs, who ended up unemployed. 120 million people slipped back into extreme poverty as a result of the pandemic. In other words, the poorest in the world have become poorer still, and inequality, which is a point that we have made loud and clear in all international fora, has increased. And a very small minority of the world's population have the majority of the world's wealth. With regard to the Sustainable Development Goals, it seems that we may lose a decade on achieving them. And that at the same time as North American-based banks are seeing record receipts in 2020, whilst the majority of humankind is groaning under the pandemic, banks and stock markets in the United States enjoyed growth of a minimum of 40%, again, glaring inequality. And we have millions of children who die every year as a result of malnutrition. Whilst this is happening, whilst these glaring inequalities continue to accumulate. The same is true when it comes to vaccine equity. Vaccines are not available to the poorest in the world, while stock markets rise and indeed soar. And indeed that 1%, those in whose hands the wealth is concentrated, go unscathed. Only 5% of the world's population have had access to full vaccination. Again, an inequality. Millions and millions of people have slipped into extreme poverty, while the few are well and safe. The mechanisms established to combat and control the pandemic, as well as to limit its impact, have reflected this same model of inequality and inequity. Venezuela has repeatedly complained before the World Health Organization about the fact that 10 countries have 63% of the vaccines in their hands, again underscoring a lack of access, a lack of equity when it comes to access to vaccines. Venezuela reiterates its appeal to correct this imbalanced distribution of vaccines, as well as the unequal distribution of special drawing rights by the International Monetary Fund. Not enough is being done with special drawing rights, for example, to minimize the impact of the pandemic. And the vast majority of the special drawing rights that have been issued to counter the impact of the pandemic have been handed over to already wealthy countries. Some 70% of special drawing rights have gone to wealthy countries, the lion's share of it to the United States. Venezuela is raising this point in every fora where it is possible, also underscoring the point that we have been a victim of discrimination when it comes to the issue of special drawing rights, or SDRs, and the failure to issue them to us means that our country and our people have not been able to enjoy the $5.5 million worth of special drawing rights that they should have enjoyed, thanks largely to the actions of the United States and its criminal blockade against Venezuela, as well as its actions in other channels to prevent Venezuela from having access to vaccines and to medicines, and again to special drawing rights from the IMF. We're blocked at every turn. Another major inequality, which should cause us pause and cause us to think deeply, is because this bears on our very future as humankind, and that is to do with climate change. And we hear this from all sides, from specialists, from experts. The figures prove this to be true. If we do not take action by the middle of this century, there will be more plastic than fish in the world's oceans. And I think that's worth underscoring once again. There will be more plastic than fish in the world's oceans by 2050 if we do not take immediate action. The Secretary General of the United Nations has pointed out that only 2% of GDP is dedicated to marine science research, whilst the world's major multinational companies set aside billions of dollars for space research. And I want to make that point. Investment has to have a point and a focus, and it has to be balanced. Venezuela's appeal is to us all to ensure that investment is in genuine sustainable development for all peoples. If we take the example of Latin America and the Caribbean, according to statistics from banks, we have oil reserves in our region from $5.7 billion. But these natural resources, not just oil, although it looks like it's in the hand of Latin American Caribbean companies, many of these Latin American Caribbean supposedly based countries are actually shell companies. So this wealth does not end up in Latin America and the Caribbean. It filters through these shell companies. It filters through to multinational companies in the Western world. And that's where the resources and the profits go. Only 9% of the liquid assets, of the $5.7 billion in liquid assets that should be enjoyed in Latin America and the Caribbean, of that sum, in addition to that which filters out of our region, very little of it is then invested in sustainable development and in genuine plans to counter poverty and inequality. And that is a course that we need to correct. We need to review these mechanisms. We need to overhaul multilateralism, and we need to do all of that to correct the existing asymmetries and imbalances, particularly when it comes to finances, particularly finances at the level of international mechanisms. Venezuela will continue to lobby hard for a new financial architecture, a new multilateral financial architecture. And we make that point as a country that is a victim of unilateral coercive measures that are illegal and illegitimate. Some 400 plus unilateral coercive measures have been enacted targeting our very people and our economy. For that, we need more multilateralism, we need more cooperation, not these unilateral measures. That will be the only way to ensure that our investment flows arrive at the people themselves, and that they deliver development that mirrors the definition of development contained in the Johannesburg Declaration, and not investment that allows those who are already rich and wealthy to further expand their coffers and to further expand inequality and inequity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President of Venezuela. Now I have the honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Mohamed Lutfi, Minister of Trade, Republic of Indonesia. Indonesia is going to assume the presidency of G20 in 2022. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
I would like to start with a warm greeting from Jakarta, Indonesia, and my sincere appreciation to Untitled for organizing the 7th World Investment Forum. Distinguished ministers, panelists, and participants, if I may, I would like to share some of my thoughts and ideas on some of the pressing global issues that we face together. And hopefully it can contribute to today's discussions. As we are all aware, the COVID-19 pandemic brought a dramatic fall in global foreign direct investment by almost 35% in 2020, from about $1.5 trillion in 2019 to only about $1 trillion in 2020, which bring FDI flow back to the level seen in 2005. The crisis has also had an immense negative impact on the most productive types of investment, namely greenfield investment in industrial, energy, and infrastructure projects. This means that international production, an engine of global economic growth and development, has been seriously affected. Likewise, the crisis has rolled back progress made in bridging the investment gap achieved following the adoptions of the Sustainable Development Goals. This demands a renewed commitment and a big push for investment in SDGs. The focus now is on the recovery process. While we saw that global trade continues to grow in the first half of 2021, there is still work to be done. Right now, it is not only about reigniting the economy, but also how to make the economic recovery more sustainable and resilient. Indonesia is the view that policy coherence between trade, investment, and industrial areas will be the key to sustainable and inclusive global economic recovery. Excellency ministers, panelists, and participants, allow me to share some fundamental issues that Indonesia is facing right now. Indonesia has recorded an impressive economic growth since overcoming the Asian financial crisis back in the late 90s. Political reform and improved democratic system elevated Indonesia into the world top economies, earning the membership of G20 nations. However, we are facing new threat right now. Currently, Indonesia is benefit from an ideal demographic bonus, but it will soon run out in 2038. So before that happens, Indonesia must triple our income per capita to around $12,500 US. For us to escape from the middle income trap, if Indonesia unable to perform this, we could not progress into developed countries in the next 17 to 18 years and would be stuck in the middle income trap countries. To achieve such an objective right now, Indonesia is evolving from producing raw and semi-finished goods country to an industrial and high technology industrial goods producer. For this reason, there are two main keys for Indonesia to be able to get out of the middle income trap. They are investment and adoptions of new technology. Distinguished ministers, panelists, and participants. As the twin engine for economic growth, we need to come back to the trade, revive investment flows. Seamless flows of FDI to developing countries and LDCs will play an important role in bringing technology, jobs, and finance. We need to create a positive business climate and supportive trade and investment policies, which is essential to mobilize investment for economic transformation, needed to address the challenges of changing global environment. I would like to address that the urgency of shifting the investment from conventional to the sustainable one is more important than ever. This is because types of investment are more likely to contribute to economic recovery in the long run and are more resilient to future shocks. Sustainable investment is necessary because not only it will improve supply chain resilience by mitigating environmental, social, and governance risk, but also in order to achieve better and sustainable economic recovery. By facilitating sustainable investment, Indonesia wants to ensure that our economic transformation align with ESG and SDG objectives, and also ensure that our export and inward investment are responsive to the environment and sustainability. Excellency Ministers, panelists, and participants, finally, I would like to share with you the enthusiasm and optimism that Indonesia is ready to continue its duties as the G20 presidency in 2022. It is our intention to explore the possibility to formulate international principles on sustainable investment facilitations during the G20 presidency next year. Indonesia is of the view that G20 should send positive signal to the international community that we are committed to integrating ESG and SDG principle into policy making, which emphasizes the important nexus of sustainable trade, investment, and industrial policies to ensure that next year we will be able to recover together, recover stronger. I genuinely hope for support from partner countries, colleagues, and international organizations to make the priority agenda of Indonesian presidency a success. On this occasion, I would like to welcome the role of UNTAD in this endeavor. I particularly know that UNTAD has been supporting the work of the G20 in the trade and investment area over the past decades through monitoring reports and input to ministerial meetings. G20 had entrusted UNTAD in facilitating the negotiations on the G20 guiding principle for global investment policy making during China presidency back in 2016. This time, it will be my pleasure to work closely with UNTAD and other countries to make headway in the G20 discussions and consensus building for the 2022 Indonesia G20 presidency. Thank you.
I thank the Honorable Excellency Mr. Muhammad Lufti, the Minister of Trade, Republic of Indonesia. And I now have the honor to give the floor to Her Excellency Dr. Rania Al-Mashad, Minister of International Cooperation, the Arab Republic of Egypt. The floor is yours.
At the outset, allow me to congratulate and commend UNICTAD for its World Investment Forum, a truly inclusive and universal platform to devise strategies and solutions for global investment and development challenges. The World Investment Forum provides us all with a unique opportunity to hear from policymakers, business leaders, and other stakeholders. This platform is needed to facilitate collective actions required to tackle the global challenges as the world slowly emerges from COVID-19 pandemic. Similar to the layout of this roundtable, the Ministry of International Cooperation frequently organizes multi-stakeholder platforms which aim to provide a platform for private sector, development partners, civil society, policymakers in order to discuss innovative solutions and to explore avenues of cooperation for pressing topics. For instance, the Ministry of International Cooperation has organized one on digitalization, which has become an integral part of the economic recovery in the context of the pandemic. We are faced with exceptional circumstances, a health crisis of a magnitude that has not been seen before, with implications on both human and economic aspects. Our response requires global and coordinated actions. Accelerating investments is key for a global recovery, but this cannot happen without a more equitable vaccine distribution policy. No one is safe until everybody is safe, and no economy can fully recover unless and until every country has the tools to combat COVID-19 effectively and comprehensively.
Apologies for the interruption, but to advise that interpretation has had to be suspended because of the poor sound quality. Thank you.
between 5 and 5.5% in 2021-2022, and we have maintained our position as the largest recipient of FDI in Africa, with a wide range of promising key strategic sectors for FDI. These include health, tourism, pharmaceuticals, infrastructure, digital solutions, financial services, education, and food. It is also noteworthy that even at the peak of the outbreak of the pandemic, there was no disruption or shortages in supply of essential products. Egypt is committed to gear the resources needed towards a sustainable recovery and to move ahead with this comprehensive economic reform program that fosters a conducive environment for a diversified and knowledge-based economy. The Egyptian government did not wait for the pandemic's devastating effects to react. Instead, we implemented a number of swift and prudent policy responses that aimed at protecting public health and at reviving the economy through a set of measures boosting confidence to domestic and foreign investors. Egypt is also moving towards a new generation of investment policy frameworks at national, continental, and international levels. Our efforts aim at achieving a balance between having a conducive business environment and ensuring that sufficient policy space to regulate and implement measures conducive to a sustainable recovery and to the achievement of the SDGs. Through innovation, we at the Ministry of International Cooperation are working towards advancing international partnerships which are crucially needed to achieve SDGs through the principles of economic diplomacy, to constantly coordinate with stakeholders in order to ensure the achievement of the desired results of the strategic partnership framework with the UN. Economic diplomacy is based on 3 principles: multi-stakeholder platforms, official development assistance mapping to the SDGs, and the global partnerships narrative that puts people at the core and projects in action and purpose as the driver. Hence, the framework of economic diplomacy seeks to enhance the participation of stakeholders in formulating priorities and pushing Egypt's efforts towards achieving Egypt's Vision 2030 in line with the 17 UN SDGs. As stated within the final statement of the first edition of Egypt's International Cooperation Forum, Egypt ICF, that took place during the 8th and 9th of September, the role of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and its agreement is a cornerstone in promoting the growth and integration of African economies in light of COVID-19. We reaffirm the need to finalize the negotiations on the e-commerce protocol as a guiding tool for harmonizing data regulations, facilitating cross-border e-commerce and activating taxes on e-commerce. This would ultimately enhance the overall economic recovery and benefit youth, women, and small and medium enterprises working in the field of e-commerce. We recognize that establishing an enabling environment for cross-border e-commerce in Africa requires infrastructure, strong communications, cost-effective transportation methods, standardized tax systems, reliable payment solutions, and a general awareness of custom regulations and procedures. It's time to catalyze blended finance through thematic investing and digital platform to pave the way towards a sustainable development goal and the 2030 agenda. The international financial institutions, along with the United Nations and other development partners, need to put innovative solutions for development finance, taking into consideration challenges related to the scarcity of ODA resources and public debt for developing countries. Egypt's development story is promoting both impact and sustainability as cross-cutting themes that enable us to achieve complementarity and inclusiveness. And these could be achieved within mega projects that have been implemented in various sectors and that have focused on impact and mainly engage private sector, as well as creating sustainable jobs. Building the world's largest solar plant at Bimban is an example. It employs more than 4,000 people as part of Egypt's government's Sustainable Energy Strategy 2035 and aims to produce 20% of electricity from renewable resources by 2022. In this context, we would like to express our thanks to UNICTAD, our strategic partner on investment policy making, for having worked closely with us on the reform of our existing international investment agreements and on the development of a new model investment treaty. UNICTAD has also been providing valuable assistance to Egypt and to African countries in the context of negotiations of the investment protocol of the African Free Trade Agreement. These international commitments will reflect Egypt's new approach to investment policy making, namely to put sustainable development at the core of our policy frameworks, not only nationally, but also internationally. Thank you.
I thank you, Excellency. And I now have the pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Valdis Dombrovskis, the Commissioner for Trade of the European Commission. You have the floor, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for the invitation to address the World Investment Forum as economies across the globe emerge from the COVID crisis. For a sustainable and lasting recovery, what we need are more flows of productive investment. Before the pandemic struck, UNCTAD estimated that developing countries faced an annual investment gap of $2.5 trillion in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. The pandemic has only made matters worse. As UNCTAD's figures show, global foreign direct investment flows fell sharply last year by 30%. It will be our priority to ensure that investment contributes to putting the EU and other economies on the path of a sustainable recovery. And sustainability is key. We want to make sure our trade and investment instruments support countries in greening their economies. More broadly, our aim is to help attract the investments that our partner countries need in their recovery and to contribute to diversifying supply chains. This is particularly important for our neighbors, also in Africa. One area that investors often mention as critical is the need to improve and simplify the investment climate in many developing countries. This is why the EU is proposing new sustainable investment instruments to interested partners with a focus on investment facilitation and capacity building. For example, we are now in negotiations with Angola on a sustainable investment facilitation agreement. We are also discussing such a provision with the Eastern and Southern African region in the negotiations to deepen our economic partnership agreement. Then, at the WTO, a group of developing countries have launched an initiative on investment facilitation for development. Nearly 2/3 of WTO members are taking part in these negotiations, including the EU. When finalized, it will contribute to the SDGs by helping developing and least developed countries to get more benefit from global investment flows, modernize investment climates, and promote principles such as responsible business conduct. Lastly, let me say a few words on the role played by the UNCTAD itself. It has a valuable contribution to make to the debate and analysis of international investment flows and policymaking. Given UNCTAD's long-standing knowledge and experience of working with developing countries on policy refinement and investment reforms, it will play an important and hopefully very active part in the implementation of the future WTO agreement on investment facilitation for development. Thank you.
I thank Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis, for the Commissioner for Trade of the European Commission, for his statement. And I have now the pleasure to introduce His Excellency Mr. Wang Shouwen, the Vice Minister and Deputy Chief Trade Representative of the People's Republic of China. You have the floor, sir.
Honorable Secretary General Greenspan, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by extending warm congratulations on behalf of the government of China on the opening of the 7th World Investment Forum. Also, I'd like to pay tribute to UNCTAD's important contribution to promoting global investment cooperation. The World Investment Report is influential worldwide and has a large readership in China. Today, international investment cooperation encounters headwinds and faces many challenges. The foremost challenge is COVID-19. Multinationals are lacking confidence in overseas investment, and they are adjusting to regional, diverse, and shorter supply chains. Meanwhile, senior managers and technicians of multinationals find it difficult to travel internationally. All these have an adverse impact on investment projects. Protectionism is also a source of concern. Some countries have tightened foreign investment security review on the grounds of industrial and supply chains security. Human rights and labor issues that are not directly linked to investment are also cited as an excuse. Some countries have adopted legislations to restrict investment and foreign mergers and acquisitions in so-called critical infrastructure. Having said that, it is also a delight to see many important opportunities for foreign direct investment. Carbon neutrality provides countries with enormous chances in green investment. The pandemic is a catalyst for the boom in digital economy, which has become a major driver for FDI. At the WTO, China, along with others, jointly initiated investment facilitation negotiations, which now involve 105 members. Moreover, text negotiations on the domestic regulation of trading services have been successfully concluded. At the UN, ESG investing has come to be widely recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, President Xi Jinping of China announced that China would actively foster a new development paradigm with domestic circulation as the mainstay and domestic and international circulations reinforcing each other. China keeps shortening its negative lists for foreign investment. Between 2017 and 2020, China cut items on the lists for 4 consecutive years by nearly 2/3. The manufacturing sector is now nearly fully open, and China continues to pursue greater openness of services sectors. China is strengthening investment platforms. China has set up 21 pilot free trade zones and introduced more trade and investment liberalization and facilitation measures in the free trade zones and Hainan Free Trade Port. China keeps upgrading economic development zones and holds the International Fair for Investment and Trade in Xiamen, both online and offline. China is actively engaged in overseas investment cooperation. In 2020, China invested $155.7 billion overseas, with a total stock of outbound investment amounting to $2.4 trillion. They generated $44.5 billion of taxes and created over 2 million jobs in host economies last year alone. China provides quality services for foreign investor enterprises in China. We have set up a national center to handle complaints from foreign investor enterprises, as well as task forces to help foreign investor enterprises in China quickly return business to normal in the pandemic. In September this year, President Xi Jinping announced that China would increase support for fellow developing countries in low-carbon energy and would not build new coal-fired power projects abroad. In 2020, China signed the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP) agreement with 14 other parties and concluded comprehensive agreement on investment negotiations with the European Union. RCEP is expected to enter into force early next year. Recently, China has officially submitted its request to join the CPTPP, indicating its determination to further open up. Ladies and gentlemen, China calls on relevant countries to refrain from abusing national security reviews and pursuing investment protectionism in the excuse of the pandemic. Instead, more efforts should be exerted to enable an environment which is fair, transparent, safe for foreign direct investment in order to stimulate world economic recovery. China advocates joint efforts to safeguard an open, transparent, inclusive, and non-discriminatory multilateral trading system. We will contribute to a successful ministerial conference of the WTO in the next months. We also expect an even bigger role of United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the UNCTAD, in facilitating international investment. To conclude, I wish this forum a full success. Thank you all.
I thank His Excellency, Mr. Wang Shouwen, the Vice Minister and Deputy Chief Trade Representative of the People's Republic in China, for his remarks. And now I have the honor to pass the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Peter Altmaier, of the Federal Minister for Economic Affairs and Energy of the Federal Republic of Germany. Excellency, you have the floor.
General Greenspan, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good friends. COVID-19 has been and still is a major challenge for all of us. The pandemic is threatening lives, putting a brake on our economic and social lives, and endangering the SDGs set out in the Agenda 2030. Our job is to do everything to leave this crisis behind us. At the same time, we must set the right course for the future of our countries now and ensure that we can reconcile climate action and growth. The long-term objective here is to become more resilient, more digital, and more sustainable than we are before the crisis. In Germany, we've been able to use major support programs to successfully stabilize our economy. At the same time, we introduced our stimulus in future packages to foster forward-looking investment and sustainability. But it is clear that we need major investments on a global scale, and especially in the developing world. The World Investment Forum is an opportunity for us to work on joint solutions. We need private investment and innovative companies to emerge stronger from the crisis, to make our countries fit for the future, and to implement the Agenda 2030. This ties in with one of the key challenges for our countries and the international community as a whole. We need to create the best possible framework and the right incentives for stronger private investment that will help us to implement the agenda. This also means providing government funding to mobilize private investments towards the SDGs. The European Union's Recovery Fund was conceived with this in mind. Some 37% of its funds are to be funneled into the sustainable transformation. We are talking about more than 250 billion euros. Investing in renewable energies now makes sense, even in areas where companies have so far shied away because of the high costs and risks attached. In Germany, we have earmarked 30 billion euros of our 113 billion euro stimulus package for forward-looking investments. We are also using our instruments of foreign trade and investment, promoting to support the green transformation. For instance, we want to provide greater support to solar projects in African countries to make them more economically attractive to companies. Green hydrogen produced in a climate-friendly way is especially important to us. Green hydrogen will play a key role in tackling climate change, as it can help deliver considerable reductions in carbon emissions, especially in areas like industry and transport, where energy efficiency and the use of electricity from renewables are not yet enough. A great advantage of hydrogen is that it can be easily used to store and transport energy. This opens up major opportunities and potential for companies. In the mid to long term, green hydrogen will be a market worth billions of euros. It will give rise to the new value chains and jobs for the next generation. According to a European study, the European hydrogen industry could generate more than 5.4 million jobs by 2050, turning over 800 billion euros per year. Germany wants to be at the forefront of this development and is providing 9 billion euros to foster a green hydrogen industry. We are spending 2 billion euros on development and implementation of projects in non-EU and non-EFTA countries. This gives developing countries, in particular, a chance to play a key role in the production of this valuable resource. And the federal government also supports private investment by giving companies comprehensive information about business opportunities abroad. One example of this is our Africa Business Network. We want our investment policy to create mutual benefits for all, so that developing nations and emerging economies can derive a lasting benefit from private capital. For this reason, we rigorously use our investment policy to foster international human rights as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it is essential that we keep up our international dialogue. UNCTAD is an excellent forum for this. I would also like to highlight the annual World Investment Report, which offers valuable guidance. UNCTAD plays a major part in ensuring that developing countries can benefit from investments made and can secure inward investment in an inclusive and sustainable way. This is why Germany supports a strong mandate for UNCTAD. We very much welcome the World Investment Forum on matters of investment and development policy. Let's make investment work for all and stay healthy.
Thank you very much, Minister Altmaier from the Federal Republic of Germany for his contribution to this roundtable debate. And now I have the pleasure to introduce His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Patel, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition from South Africa. You have the floor, sir.
Chairperson and colleagues, this UNCTAD session on investment is timely as countries grapple with how best to secure economic recovery, stimulate growth, and enable development. South Africa introduced a series of measures over the past number of years to facilitate inward investment. Above all, it required close attention to matching investment needs with our national industrial development objectives. Agility and flexibility have been important aspects of our efforts, and through close collaboration with investors, we have secured investment pledges from domestic and foreign players of $54 billion over the past 3 years towards our overall national investment target. While these efforts continue, we also see that significant investment opportunities will arise through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Once operationalized, the agreement will provide a host of new incentives for investment to take advantage of a more open, a more growing, and an increasingly integrated African market. Based on our experience, I wish to share 5 reflections. First, while climate change represents an enormous and necessary challenge for industrial sectors across the world, it also comes with significant opportunities to build new infrastructure, to retool industries, and to create green jobs through producing the new technologies required for a more sustainable growth path. Developing countries will require support for such a transition and, crucially, a bold package of concessional funding from developed countries, which can, of course, assist to attract and incentivize private investment in these new areas. Second, the pandemic has affected all countries and regions, yes, but it has disproportionately impacted countries with limited industrial capacity and fiscal space. This asymmetry is reflected in the fact that while a few countries made progress in securing and delivering vaccines for their citizens, many developing countries, including on the African continent, lag behind. Less than 5% of Africa's population have been fully vaccinated, out of a global average of 50%. Economic recovery rates show the same trend. Growth in major advanced economies in some emerging markets is accelerating, propelled by strong fiscal and monetary policy support and rapid vaccination. But in most other countries, particularly the poorest without access to vaccines, growth is suppressed. Essentially, the world is facing a two-track recovery. On current projections, many economies will only recover to pre-COVID GDP per capita in 10 years' time. Third, following the dramatic decline in foreign direct investment flows last year, we are now witnessing an overall rebound. This is welcome news, but this is spread unevenly across the world. UNCTAD's latest World Investment Report indicates that for the latest period, FDI inflows to Africa fell by 16% to $40 billion, the lowest level for 15 years. And while there is an uptick in investment inflows in some countries, overall greenfield investment, both in resource industries and to support industrialization, has declined. Fourth, for Africa, the pandemic revealed the strategic vulnerability of overdependence on imports of medical and pharmaceutical goods. In response, South Africa, through determined efforts, has seen new investment and expansion of capacity to produce vaccines, ventilators, and personal protective equipment. We have in turn focused on supplying other countries on the African continent. While this is good progress, much more needs to be done in South Africa and elsewhere. A critical element to dealing with the ongoing pandemic and strengthen preparedness for future pandemics is improved access to relevant technology and know-how. In this light, the joint proposal by South Africa and India, supported by more than 100 WTO members for a temporary TRIPS waiver, could open space for greater collaboration and sharing of technology and know-how. Finally, building back better will require greater resilience and sustainability. For Africa, and specifically for South Africa, it means greater efforts to promote industrialization and structural transformation. This will require, in some instances, a rebalancing of global, regional, and national supply chains. This is also likely to require rethinking global trade and investment rules to give greater attention to national development policies and strategies within a framework of multilateral cooperation, so that we address ongoing challenges of development in the context of digitization and responses to climate change. We look forward to working with UNCTAD and with other partner countries. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency Minister Patel from South Africa. And now we will be addressed by our next speaker, Lord Grimston of Boscobel, the Minister for Investment, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. You have the floor, sir.
Well, as the UK's Minister for Investment, I am delighted to be able to address you today. Now, the pandemic has accelerated pre-existing megatrends across almost every aspect of the global economy, from changing lifestyles to digitalization, connectivity to changing business models, the nature of work to entrepreneurship. And for its part, the UK recognizes the crucial role of trade and investment in the economic recovery. Foreign investment allows industries of the future to thrive, boosting innovation, productivity, and high pay, and creating highly skilled jobs. The UK has a proud reputation as one of the most open economies in the world, with our FDI stock second only to the United States. So mobilizing our economy for recovery means a renewed focus on our approach to mobile international investors. And that is why, through our regional trade and investment hubs, our Office for Investment, our Investment Council, the UK is forging ahead with plans to give new focus and structure to our offer for top-tier global investors. And we are also in talks with some of the world's biggest sovereign wealth and pension funds about investing in critical and priority sectors. Research and development is a key pillar of the UK's plan for growth, and our recently established sovereign investment partnership with the United Arab Emirates, for example, including a bioscience initiative involving £800 million, will unlock investment for technology and innovation-led sectors such as energy transition and infrastructure. And our infrastructure strategy sets out the UK government's plans to transform its approach to our transport, digital, energy, and utility networks to deliver sustained public and private investment which will support innovation and deliver projects better, faster, and greener. And in the lead up to our hosting of COP26, now literally only weeks away, the UK will also be renewing our drive to decarbonise our economy with our world-leading goal to reach net zero by 2050. And earlier this week, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, members of the royal family, hosted a global investment summit, galvanising foreign investment in the UK's green tech and renewable energy industries. And we have launched a £1 billion clean growth focused innovation portfolio to accelerate the commercialisation of innovative low carbon technologies, including hydrogen production, storage, and use. And recent foreign investment successes related to British green energy projects, including battery gigafactories, as well as offshore wind farms, such as the deal we launched in March to build the largest ever offshore wind farm project in the North Sea. Now, I truly believe that economic recovery will be quickest for those countries that recognise changes in the social and economic landscape and adapt to them most effectively. And the UK government appreciates the valuable support of UNCTAD in facilitating continued dialogue, cooperation, and collaboration in this space. And together, we can accelerate investment in priority sectors so as to give us a sustainable recovery, create a freer, fairer, greener global economy, and thus build back better from the pandemic. Thank you all very much.
I thank Lord Grimstone of Boscobel, the Honourable Minister for Investment of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and now I have the honour to pass the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Andrés Valenciano, the Minister of Foreign Trade in the Republic of Costa Rica. You have the floor, sir.
Greetings, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank UNCTAD for the opportunity to be part of this important roundtable. I know there will be a rich exchange of perspectives from countries from all around the world on how we can work together to solve the challenges we are facing. The world is undergoing an era of transformations. A fragile global economy struggling to recover from the crisis, a rapidly evolving digital transformation, and a climate change crisis and the need to transition to a low-carbon economy. During these difficult times, Costa Rica has been able to navigate this crisis thanks to a resilient foreign trade institutions, working with a multi-institutional approach which brings three key actors together. First, the Ministry of Foreign Trade, responsible for public policies and guidelines. Second, our export promotion agency, Procomer, in charge of promoting exports and reaching new markets. And third, our investment promotion agency, CINDE, in charge of executing the public policies on FDI attraction. This structure has helped Costa Rica navigate a complex international setting with the purpose of generating economic development and improving the well-being of the population. Being a small and open economy has required us to rely on international trade and investment to promote sustainable and inclusive growth. Under our value proposition focused on people, planet, and prosperity, we are creating businesses and helping our partners accomplish their goals while supporting the SDG agenda. This framework has encouraged companies to invest in our country and contribute with global and sustainable development at the same time. As you know, Costa Rica is a country with a long-standing trajectory as a suitable and competitive investment destination. Thanks to our globally recognized democratic tradition and rule of law, our long-standing investment in free and accessible education, the political stability and the resilience of our people. Our path to attract FDI, although successful, has been progressive, shifting from commodities-based exports to a sophisticated global manufacturing and services hub. Throughout the years, we have sought to attract businesses that integrate sustainability within their business models. Companies which generate impact and at the same time contribute to the achievement of the SDG agenda, helping our country accelerate a transition to a carbon neutral economy. This value proposition has given positive results. Just a few weeks ago, FDI Intelligence classified Costa Rica as the top spot in Greenfield FDI performance. The report disclosed that Costa Rica is attracting up to 11 times the amount of Greenfield FDI that is expected relative to the size of our economy. In these uncertain times, we have been taking measures to enhance our competitiveness and improve our position in the global economy, putting in place the right safeguards to ensure that most vulnerable people are protected. And business plays a key role in this aspect by generating good paying formal jobs for people. Despite the success, we need to do better, making the case that climate resilience makes business sense. Investing to reduce climate vulnerability is a key strategy towards low carbon transition towards 2050. But at the same time, it allows us to better respond to these global challenges. And we are convinced that decarbonization is instrumental for a just recovery from the current crisis, and it makes good business sense. We are aware there's still much to be done. Costa Rica's membership to the OECD reflects the country's willingness and ability to continue improving our institutional framework and adopting international standards to become a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable country. Working with the OECD and organizations like UNCTAD has proved essential in building a more efficient government and increasing the well-being of all our citizens. The next page of our history will be stronger if it's greener and more inclusive than ever before. We are convinced of this, and we look forward to working with all of you on this mission, and we wish you all the best on this session. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Excellency, and I now have the pleasure to pass the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Marina Sereni, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Italy. Madam, you have the floor.
Excellencies, dear participants, I am pleased to intervene in the 7th UNCTAD World Investment Forum, and in particular in this roundtable focused on investment for sustainable development. Italy is part of the EU, one of the most open places to invest in the world. Since 2009, the EU handles foreign direct investments policies on behalf of the Union's members as part of the common commercial policy. One of the pillars of the EU investment policy aims at encouraging investments that support sustainable development, respect for human rights, and high labor and environmental standards. This includes promoting corporate social responsibility and responsible business practices. In the WTO, Italy, with the EU, is contributing to the discussions on investment facilitation. We seek to encourage the setting up of a more transparent, efficient, and predictable business climate for investors. As far as sustainable development is concerned, the Italian private sector, from big companies to small and medium enterprises, has shown an incredible amount of commitment in developing sustainable practices. Many Italian companies are pioneers and fully engaged in the compliance to SDGs. That was possible also through the Global Compact Italian Network Incisive Action and the promotion of corporate sustainability among businesses and civil society organizations. Thanks to the partnership with the business sector, Governments will be able to accelerate the work towards the timely achievement of the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals. Investment facilitation contributes to unlock investment opportunities. This should also benefit developing countries by making it easier for domestic and foreign actors to invest, conduct their business, and expand their existing investments. As participants of the Joint Statement Initiative on Investment Facilitation, we encourage and support the active participation of all WTO members in the initiative and look forward to meaningful progress in the lead up to the 12th WTO Ministerial Conference. We recognize the important role of UNCTAD in supporting governments in their investment climate reforms. UNCTAD has been a key partner for the preparation and the success of the G20 trade and investment track. Foreign direct investment plays a key role in implementing the 2030 Agenda and achieving sustainable and inclusive growth. As indicated in the final declaration of UNCTAD 15th session, today many sustainable development goals are behind schedule. The tools of trade, investment, technology, and finance can do more to change this reality and foster a more inclusive, sustainable, equitable, and resilient world. Foreign direct investments are also a crucial tool in pursuing the two important revolutions we are going through, that is, the processes of digitalization and decarbonization, essential to make our economies more competitive and more sustainable. At the Sorrento Trade and Investment Ministerial, G20 countries recognize the importance of reinvigorating investment flows, notably towards developing countries. We reaffirmed the value of improving open, non-discriminatory, transparent, and predictable conditions that foster sustainable investment. We recognized that a conducive business climate and supportive trade and investment policies could mobilize investment for economic transformation in a rapidly changing global environment. Let me conclude by recalling that in a few days, Italy will host the second edition of the Financing in Common Summit. Building upon the positive results of the first edition, all public development banks will convene for a second time to strengthen their partnership and reinforce their commitments in support of common actions for climate change and sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, Her Excellency, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy. Our next speaker will address us is His Excellency Mr. Moon Sung-wook, Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy, the Republic of Korea. Sir, the floor is yours.
안녕하십니까?
Thank you. It is a pleasure to meet you all. As we navigate the wide-ranging changes and challenges presented by the pandemic, including climate change and the restructuring of supply chains, the Seventh World Investment Forum is both timely and meaningful. Indeed, today's event offers us a valuable opportunity to discuss the direction of investment policies for a sustainable recovery. There is no doubt that COVID-19 has provided tremendous impetus in spurring the changes currently facing global industries. All across the world, countries are announcing their visions to achieve carbon neutrality and combat climate change, as well as accelerate their transition towards a digital economy. Sustainability, resilience, and inclusiveness have emerged as priorities across industries, leading to the rise of eco-friendly and low-carbon industries as new growth engines. Amidst this changing landscape, the business sector has not remained idle. Companies are increasingly demonstrating their commitment to ESG-centered business management and investments, highlighting the importance of hitherto overlooked green investments. Against this backdrop, Korea's investment policies are centered upon the three pillars of green transition, digital transition, and industrial innovation with a view to realizing sustainable development. To facilitate investment in line with such priorities, the Korean government is sparing no effort to ensure clear policy direction and objectives while forging an enabling environment to boost engagement with the private sector. Our starting point is based on the understanding that the transition to the green economy is not only inevitable, but opens a window of opportunities as climate change and carbon neutrality emerge as key factors of competitiveness. To fully embrace these new global norms, Korea seeks to expand public investment to prime the pump for private investment while improving relevant systems. By doing so, we will lay a foundation for greater engagement and investment from the private sector. At the same time, Korea aims to establish a greener industrial environment by supporting the development and utilization of eco-friendly cars, as well as high-efficiency fuel cells. In addition, we will pave the way for a seamless transition to a green economy by expanding renewable energies and building an ecosystem for the hydrogen industry. Korea also plans to formulate a vision and strategy for carbon neutrality industrial transition within this year as a blueprint to transform these challenges into new economic opportunities. The importance of achieving a digital transition continues to grow as the fourth industrial revolution meets a rapidly expanding online economy. This brings me to the second pillar of Korea's investment policies. As you are all aware, COVID-19 has served to underscore the importance of the digital economy. As an example, Korea's digital-friendly environment enabled companies to switch their business models online with ease and avoid further disruptions. Based on the lessons learned from the pandemic, Korea will promote nationwide digitalization that penetrates all aspects of daily life. In addition, we will provide support to companies for R&D as well as other efforts to enhance their digital competitiveness. Moreover, we plan to strengthen policy support for the private sector to take the lead in forging a network of solidarity and cooperation in facilitating a digital transition across all value chains. Korea will also promulgate the Industrial Digital Transition Promotion Act to spearhead smart innovations in the manufacturing industry through integration with data technology. Last but not least, Korea is striving to promote industrial innovation to fully leverage the opportunities presented by the green and digital transition. Alongside emerging industries, including systems, semiconductors, biotechnology, future mobility, and batteries, Korea will foster material, component, and equipment industries to solidify our industrial foundation. At the same time, balanced growth will be achieved through R&D and infrastructure investments for local businesses as well as SMEs. I have now provided you with an overview of how Korea is pursuing investment policies in the direction of sustainable development. Nevertheless, if we wish to see our investment policies deliver tangible outcomes, the scope of cooperation must be expanded beyond Korea and into the international community. In this vein, I'm pleased to note that the Trade and Development Board of UNCTAD revised its classification of Korea from a developing nation to a developed nation in July. This revision is of true significance as it recognizes Korea's remarkable growth based upon trade and investment. Korea will continue its efforts to meet its responsibilities and duties, as well as further expand our role at UNCTAD as a bridge between developing and developed nations, thereby contributing to international solidarity and cooperation for sustainable development in the post-COVID era. I would like to wrap up my remarks by thanking UNCTAD for this valuable opportunity to exchange insights on sustainable development despite the difficulties caused by the pandemic. As an active participant as well as beneficiary of global investment, Korea will continue to strive towards achieving sustainable development through active investment. Thank you. Thank you for your attention, and please accept my best wishes for a most successful forum.
I thank you, Excellency. And I now have the pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Mikhail Jabarov, Minister of Economy, the Republic of Azerbaijan. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Mr. James Zhang, dear colleagues, dear participants of the video conference, it is a great pleasure to address you at the Investments in Sustainable Development Roundtable organized within the 7th World Investment Forum. I am confident that the ideas and proposals voted out and experiences shared will give the further impetus to improve the investment climate and pave the way to new opportunities in this area. As you are well aware, COVID-19 pandemic had a negative impact on the global economy. As a result of the economic downturn, the volume of foreign direct investment in the world fell by over 35%, amounting to $1 trillion. In general, enhancement and expansion of global trade relations during the pandemic period is increasingly important. Undoubtedly, no country can develop relying only upon itself without international cooperation, trade, investment exchange, or knowledge and technology. Development of international trade relations, in its turn, must rely upon sustainability, inclusivity, and environmental protection principle. And now, in order for the global economy to shift to a period of growth, we should enhance our cooperation and work together. It is only by means of international cooperation can we move to economic growth. It is heartening that the pandemic's negative effects and quarantine regime softening to a significant degree has created foundation for economic recovery and development in Azerbaijan. In the first 9 months of the current year, real GDP growth level reached 4.8%, whereas non-oil sector GDP growth reached 6.2%. Our trade turnover is also on the rise. Thus, throughout the first 9 months of 2021, our foreign trade turnover increased by 24.8%, our exports by 38.3%, whereas non-oil exports grew by 40.9%. Increasing investments in sustainable and inclusive post-pandemic recovery is now a top priority for the governments across the world. Attracting investments into the national economy, along with ensuring sustainable development of the non-oil economy and the development of industrial sectors through the effective use of local resources, is of great importance for our country's economic policies. One of the efficient ways is to deepen integration of the national economy into the global economic system and becoming an important part of the GVC is to establish free economic and industrial zones. Azerbaijan has also undertaken the relevant measures. The creation of the Alat Free Economic Zone represents a vivid example of these developments, and first residents here will commence operations next July. Dear conference participants, furthermore, the implemented measures allow to constantly develop the country's business and investment landscape, improve legislation, business registration procedures, tax and customs systems, simplify administrative procedures, and expand the scope of e-government. In pursuit of structural reforms, Azerbaijan Investment Holding was established as a public legal entity to ensure appropriate management of state-owned enterprises based on consistent principles, improvement of their corporate governance, increase the transparency and economic efficiency of their investment program, as well as to ensure their financial health and sustainability. Increasing focus on attracting foreign investments in sustainable development, especially in the provision of sustainable infrastructure, private sector participation, and foreign investment in public infrastructure assets, has turned the development of public-private partnerships into one of the top priorities for our government. At foundation of sustainable development, there is an economic and social well-being of the world, which we live in. For this purpose, production of goods and services in healthy ecosystem plays significant role. Provision of sustainable green and inclusive development must be prioritized, and international cooperation in this area should be enhanced. Specifically, international organizations can and should play much stronger role and put more efforts into multilateral coordination aimed at sustainable development. In accordance with our national priorities document and taking into account global climate change degree, application of environmentally clean technologies, waste processing, restoration of the polluted areas, effective usage of water resources and sustainable energy, and overall green economy would be given special attention to and further promoted. In this regard, I would like to highlight the opportunities provided by the fourth industrial revolution. Application of new and innovative technologies and solutions will play a great role for us to reach the goals of green development. On April 1st, 2021, the World Economic Forum's network of Fourth Industrial Revolution centers, Azerbaijan's affiliated center, started its activities. I also would like to give information on the new opportunities in the liberated territories, where we created new favorable environment for the regional projects, especially for transit and logistics. We believe that enhancing regional cooperation will certainly ensure long-lasting peace in the region. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Honorable Minister and have the honor to pass on the floor to His Excellency Mr. Zdravko Počivalček, the Minister of Economic Development and Technology, the Republic of Slovenia. You have the floor.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to address you today at this important investment conference. COVID-19 crisis affected every country in the world, including Slovenia. Since our market is extremely export-oriented, we are highly dependent on the global market trends. Therefore, we also experienced cutbacks on supply and demand and various shortcomings. Yet I'm proud that we have managed to maintain a lively economy with systemic government intervention measures. The latest data show that we are on a good path to recovery with a projected 6.5% economic growth. However, there is no time for celebration yet. We must continue with the recovery process, which should be more sustainable and more resilient to future shocks. We strive for the green and digital recovery. In order to accelerate investments in green and digital transition, we believe it is necessary to put more resources in research and innovation, to stimulate the investments of green and digital technologies, to improve skills and lifelong learning, which are the basis of the processes, to keep markets open and predictable, and foster a more favorable business environment. This is also a direction Slovenia will follow and is promoting during the presidency. Slovenia has been recognized as one of the world's most sustainable countries. Within our industrial policy, we are focusing on green, creative, and smart economy and on restructuring of traditional industry into an industry of knowledge and innovation. Within the EU Recovery and Resilience Facility and our national plan, we are focusing on 7 priority areas: energy efficiency, circular economy, wood processing, digital transformation, research development and innovation, sustainable development of Slovenian tourism, including cultural heritage, and raising productivity and an investor-friendly environment. I'm proud to say that Slovenia has increased the inflow of foreign direct investments to over 16.5 billion euros in 2020. But we are aware that new investment are crucial for any pro-growth fiscal policy. That's why we are trying to attract more investments towards SDG sectors. Our investment incentives will be redirected mainly to more capital-intensive corporate investments with increased productivity, working towards green and digital sustainability, and reducing environmental impact. Last but not least, I believe that our vision of green, creative, smart Slovenia is the right path for attracting investment also in the future. The slogan features key future trends that every investor would benefit from. I'm convinced that proactive government reforms and substitutional recovery programs that are being adopted will boost investment in sustainable growth. We need to seek synergies between the investment promotion and facilitation, trade and investment policy, and other relevant policies. I firmly believe we will recover faster if we work together on the basis of open, multilateral, transparent market. We need a collective action to build economies that deliver inclusive economic growth, prosperity, and safety for all. One should not forget the hard work related to the WTO, Joint Initiative on Investment Facilitation for Development, its contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals and benefits for developing and least developed countries. Let me conclude with congratulating the UNCTAD for its substantive role and contributions to the whole process. Thank you for your attention.
I thank Honorable Minister Podgorzelczyk and now have the pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Son Excellence, Monsieur Aruna Kabore.
His Excellency, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Artisanal Industries from Burkina Faso. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président,
Chair, Excellencies, fellow ministers, Secretary General, ambassadors and representatives of the diplomatic missions in Geneva, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the institutions, ladies and gentlemen, technical and financial partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to address you at this 7th World Investment Forum, which has been organized and hosted by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD. I would like to convey to you all the gratitude of the President of Burkina Faso to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, and also his gratitude to Ms. Rebecca Greenspan, the Secretary General of UNCTAD, for the honor extended to Burkina Faso by giving this opportunity to address this august assembly. I would also like to take this opportunity to address my greetings to all my fellow ministers who are participating in this very important event. Chair, the topic for today's forum, or this forum, investing in sustainable development, is, as far as developing countries such as Burkina Faso are concerned, is vital and indeed a key plank of our development strategy. Between 2016 and 2020, Burkina Faso rolled out a national plan for social and economic development, which acts as the reference framework or benchmark framework for all actions towards those goals. All of this is based on the African Union 2063 agenda, as well as the SDGs. And these have also acted as a framework for the work that's been carried out in Burkina Faso, particularly focusing on SDG 9, constructing a resilient infrastructure for sustainable industrialization that will benefit each and every member of society and which will encourage and foster innovation. Against that backdrop, and faced with the challenge of structural overhaul of economy, the overall thrust of our national action plan is to ensure strong, sustainable and resilient growth across all sectors, creating decent work for all and ensuring better social well-being. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the rollout of our action plan, despite the security challenges and the climate change hazards, has helped us to strengthen the resilience of Burkina Faso society. And we have seen an average growth rate of 2% between 2016 and 2019. Of course, from 2020 onwards, we saw the depressive effect of the pandemic on growth rates and on inward investment. But we have risen to meet that challenge through reform to our investment strategy and investment portals. With regard to development of human capital, for example, the government has focused its actions in particular on improving the quality and availability of healthcare services in order to ensure that these are more available to the people of Burkina Faso, including, for example, through steps such as free healthcare for children under the age of 5 and pregnant women, as well as boosting the number of human resources invested in our healthcare sector. We've also provided free of charge family planning services, and we have also overhauled our medical insurance sector. And these are all steps that have helped or that will help to ensure that we can reap the demographic dividend in Burkina Faso by having a healthy as well as highly skilled population. We have also been focusing on our agricultural sector, which represent 37% of the market in Burkina Faso as of 2017, seeing a huge boost from their previous level of 25%. And that's been largely achieved through working directly with farmers and with producers, bringing the two parts of this sector chain together. With regard to industrial development, ensuring that we have highly added value products has also necessitated action. And our action has seen the increase of the share of industry in our GDP from 19% in 2012 to 24% in 2019. Several actions have been undertaken by the government of Burkina Faso, particularly when it comes to resource mobilization. Public intervention has allowed us, for example, to overhaul and repair many dams, as well as build many further dams in the country, which have helped not only with our energy mix, but also with water provision. On energy in particular, we have seen a growth from 300 to 417 megawatts as average electricity output between 2017 and 2020. And that holds true across the energy sector. When it comes to environmental action management and sustainable development at this level, actions under this heading have allowed us to restore some 3,000 plus previously degraded hectares of land, including arable land as well as national park land, and we continue in that effort. All of these actions will continue to be pursued under SDGs 7 to 11 and 12 to 15 in particular, which is where we'll be focusing. And this have enabled the government of Burkina Faso, together with our public and private partnerships, to make our country a more attractive investment destination across a range of sectors. There has been great action, but there's also several challenges that remain ahead. As part of our new National Economic and Social Development Plan, we have decided to adopt an environmental charter that will ensure that all our development activities are environmentally friendly. We believe this is vital for the founding and forging of a robust, resilient, and healthy society, which will be the bedrock of an inclusive and sustainable economic development. To achieve that goal, we intend to build upon the resilience of all sectors of society and ensure the rootedness of peace. We also intend to make sure they develop human capital and our resources, and also to develop key sectors when it comes to the economy and to jobs. All of that brings us to investment and how we ensure that we can channel that investment to a more productive sector that really has a place to play in the market and looks attractive on world markets. And the part of doing that is ensuring that we develop and produce value-added products. It will also mean that we need to develop our trade and our service industries as well in order to ensure that these can act as a sectoral vector for job growth. We will also need to develop high-quality, resilient infrastructure to enable the structural overhaul and change of the economy. We'll also need to reverse the current trend of loss of natural resources and environment. We will have to reverse the trend of land degradation and to make sure that our country is resilient to the ongoing impact of greenhouse gas emissions. We believe that if we can hold the line on these actions, then we think the overall outcome will be positive, particularly if we focus our actions and our limited resources on those areas of the economy that are most likely to reap dividends. To that end, we will need to bring together, of course, all stakeholders, whether that's the public sector, private sector, civil society, Burkinabe living abroad, and our technical and financial partners, as well as the government. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to underscore the very positive trend of cooperation that exists between UNCTAD and my country. We have benefited and we continue to benefit from their technical assistance when it comes to developing our strategic goals and ensuring that they take into account sustainable development. We have the example of the 2009 Burkina Faso investment policy, which was supported by a memorandum of understanding signed with UNCTAD in 2007. We had a similar such memorandum of understanding signed in 2018. And it's thanks to this work and this cooperation, and thanks to the input of UNCTAD, that we've been able to roll out an overhaul of its investment strategy to ensure that it had a global rather than fragmented investment strategy, and one that fitted with changes in the global economy. We are also working with fellow African states to tear down barriers to trade and exchange to ensure that we can have access beyond our borders to markets that can raise to several hundreds of millions of potential consumers. That, for example, is happening at the West African level. This will give us an opportunity to ensure that we can adopt investment tools that will facilitate investment, that will promote inclusive growth, particularly in the industrial sector, and will also strengthen the competitiveness of African economies writ large. Said regime should also position us better to achieve the African Union's 2063 development goals, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals under the 2030 Agenda. It will also give us an opportunity to align our investment and commerce and trade rules in order to ensure that we are an attractive destination for investors and that we can compete fairly and strongly. Before concluding, I would like to thank you once again, Chair, for this opportunity for my country to share with you our achievements and our vision when it comes to investment and sustainable development. Thank you very much indeed.
Je vous remercie, Excellence.
My thanks to you, Your Excellency.
It's the pleasure to pass the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Qais Mohammed Musa Al Youssef, Minister of Commerce, Industry and Investment Promotion, the Sultanate of Oman. You have the floor, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the merciful.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to be part of today's Ministerial Roundtable on Investment for Sustainable Recovery. First of all, may I express my gratitude to Her Excellency Isabel Durant, Acting Secretary General of UNCTAD, and Dr. James Chan, Director of UNCTAD's Division on Investment and Enterprise. I would like to acknowledge the significant effort and considerable time they have put in to organize today's event and bringing us all together. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, I would like to share with you some of the work being done here in Oman under the wise leadership and guidance of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq as we reimagine economic growth, streamline business procedures, create a pro-enterprise environment, attract foreign investment, and promote exports. We would like the Sultanate to be a place where more than ever business can grow, succeed, and thrive. How are we going to do this? This is through Oman's Vision 2040. Launched in January of this year, it's an ambitious development strategy built on four main pillars: people and society, economy and development, governance, institutional performance, environment, and sustainability. And woven throughout Oman's Vision 2040 are the government's ESG ambitions. It is, if you will, the Sultanate's ESG blueprint. We are proud of this action-oriented plan designed to chart a new, bold, and sustainable future for Oman. I now turn to the economic stimulus plan rolled out by His Majesty's government last March. This was put in place to aid the post-COVID-19 recovery, boost Oman's competitiveness, increase private sector resilience, and attract investment. It's a policy that was a direct result of crucial conversations held with local and international business community, helping firms get through the crisis, protect and create jobs, rebuild Oman's economy, and secure the Sultanate's economic future. I'm proud to share the response from the international community to these transformational policies has been most encouraging. You may already have seen the IMF's Article 4 report on Oman. This report reads upbeat, welcoming the strong and decisive leadership of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq and His Majesty's government and the economic reform measures that have been put in place. Looking ahead, what can we expect? Like the rest of the world, we will not be going back to the conditions that prevailed in 2019. COVID-19 has changed how we all live, work, consume, and invest. During the pandemic, we have seen the public's interest in environmental and sustainability issues increase. So, what do these changing consumer attitudes mean for Omani businesses as they compete in markets at home and overseas? In my opinion, that successful companies companies with enduring success in our post-pandemic economy will be those that embrace sustainability. In the years ahead, sustainability will not be an add-on for Omani companies. It will be essential to building competitive advantage, getting ahead of new carbon taxes, attracting investors, and responding to the growing demands of eco-conscious consumers worldwide. Indeed, addressing climate change is a major element of Oman's Vision 2040. And with Oman's national energy strategy, we have embarked on a number of key green energy projects with the goal of generating 30% of our electricity from renewables by 2030. One example of this work is the 500 megawatt project green hydrogen plant that is to be constructed on the special economic zone in Duqm. This landmark project is led by Oman's OQ in partnership with Belgian offshore energy company DEMI. In conclusion, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, with the rollout of Oman's Vision 2040, we're delivering a better than ever pro-enterprise environment, making it even easier for international companies to take advantage of Oman's business opportunities in renewable energy, logistics, fisheries, manufacturing, tourism, and so much more. It is important to remember that in a post-COVID-19 world, the factors that have always attracted investment in Oman stand firm. Our strategic location, world-class infrastructure, multilingual Omani talent, strong leadership, and seamless access to regional market remain our key strengths. Under the wise leadership of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, we have a robust existing blueprint for success. In Oman, we remain future positive. Thank you very much and wish you all the best.
I thank the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Investment Promotion of the Sultanate of Oman. And the next speaker that will address the Ministerial Roundtable is His Excellency Mr. Abdul Razak Dawood, Advisor to Prime Minister on Commerce, Industries and Production and Investment, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Sir, please take the floor.
I'm thankful for giving me the opportunity to give my views at the Ministerial Roundtable on Investment and Sustainable Development. Pandemic has affected the whole world, and as a result of this, many countries, including Pakistan, have had their economy has been affected in many ways. Today, there is some degree of control on pandemic. However, the economy has yet to recover throughout the world to its full potential. Pakistan has been very fortunate. We managed the pandemic much better than many countries. And as a result of that, our economy has now started to recover quickly. Our economy today is on the right track, and we are hoping to see GDP growth. There are tremendous amounts of opportunities in Pakistan, and we invite all the members to come over to see Pakistan. We're looking for investments in the areas of housing and construction, tourism, mining and minerals, besides the traditional textiles, engineering, leather, etc. We hope that this get-together will be able to enable the world once again to focus on the main challenges of the sustainable goals in the areas of economics, social, and environment. I wish this conference well, and I hope that as a result of it, the world's economy gets back on track. Thank you.
I thank you, Excellency. And now have the honor to pass the floor to the Honorable Dr. Bandula Gunawardena, the Minister of Trade, the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Dr. Gunawardena, you have the floor.
My dear fellow ministers, Madam Secretary General, Excellencies, first of all, I extend my sincere thanks to Madam Rebecca Greenpan for inviting me to address the Ministerial Roundtable on Investment for Sustainable Development. We have just completed the UNCTAD 15. We heard the development-related problems that the developing countries have been encountering in the aftermath of COVID pandemic. I believe that time has now come to act fast. While the Ministerial Declaration provides necessary policy trust, it has now become incumbent upon us to organize forum of this nature to fast-track the implementation of its underlying priorities. It is needless to say that investment, or rather export-oriented investment, has been playing a vital role to revive pandemic-hit economies, particularly in the global south. In our view, there are several key priorities which need to be considered in national and international investment policy making. First, unemployment has been a grave concern that needs to be addressed immediately. For instance, Sri Lanka has lost thousands of jobs, especially in manufacturing and services sectors. There is a need to direct investment to revive micro, small and medium scale enterprises. Second, any post-COVID investment policy should aim at promoting investment that induce technology transfer in order to address the concerns of low productivity and lack of economies of scale and competitiveness. Third, consideration should be given to concerns relating to narrow product and services base. Sri Lanka's manufacturing sector is dependent on handful of products, while main services sector is tourism. Sri Lanka was one of the first countries which fell victim the pandemic. Fourth, digital divided needs prioritize attention. The pandemic provides with an opportunity to all of us to understand the real digital gap. Fifth, investment need to be directed to improve natural resources management, strengthen national institutions, and boost human capital to enhance agriculture productivity and promote sustainable agriculture. Sixth, priority needs to be given to renewable energy sources. Dear friends, it is important to adopt appropriate policy and regulatory measures so that we will be able to accelerate investment into priority sectors. Such approaches should also take into consideration the environmental, social, and economic factors to help countries achieve SDGs by 2030. The Board of Investment, as the nodal investment promotion agency of Sri Lanka, has adopted strategies to attack investment into priority areas. During the years 2020 and 2021, the Board of Investment has taken the initiative to set up 2 dedicated zones that meet international standards, built in with state-of-the-art facilities, catering to both international and national manufacturers. The zone intends to uphold SDGs with sustainable environmental policies and practices on water and waste management, promote use of renewable energy, including biomass and solar, and even adopting 3R principles. The corporate social responsibility of companies is taken seriously and highly commended. The Sustainable Development Act number 19 of 2017 reflects the national policy and strategy on sustainable development of the country and echoes countries' determination to ensure inclusive growth towards sustainable development. The BOI is also the process of conceptualizing an environmental, social, and governance funds for renewable energy. Interest has been noticed mainly from ESG investors who want to invest in units of such a fund. As a member of the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, the Colombo Stock Exchange actually engaged in its commitment of promote ESG performance among listed companies. Friends, these are some food of thought from the Sri Lankan contest on investment for sustainable development. I wish you all good health. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And I'd like to introduce to you now His Excellency Dr. Al-Hadi Muhammad Ibrahim, the Minister of Investment and International Cooperation of the Republic of the Sudan. Over to you, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, ladies and gentlemen, and those who are participating and following this meeting in Geneva, allow me, first of all, to express my deep thanks for those who have organized this meeting, Investment for Sustainable Development, particularly that we notice a big shortage in the necessities of life today. This bitter reality necessitates working together in order to realize sustainable development everywhere. Sudan is one of the few African countries that is endowed with natural and renewable resources such as agriculture, animal and fisheries, and a lot of other strategic wealth which is above the ground and under the ground. Sudan, over the last 3 decades, had suffered from a dictatorial regime that spread war everywhere and impeded development and growth and brought in problems with many countries of the world and impoverished the people and brought them backwards. Moreover, it stampeded over all human rights and human values. The revolution that we have witnessed in 2019 had spread to restore freedom and dignity to the people. Since its arrival, the revolution, we worked to remove the name of Sudan from the list of terrorist countries, as well as taking a decision to unify the price of exchange and good governance on government investment and expenditure, as well as curbing down inflation. We have also achieved a peace with the Revolutionary Front, which is a victory on the peaceful front. We have commenced a very serious dialogue with other warring factions that have not signed an agreement with us. We have held a meeting in Paris in 2021, which led to removing sanctions upon Sudan that impeded its economic and social development. In view of all these major reforms that we have been able, particularly over the countries of HIPC, we have been able to receive necessary support from international financial institutions such as the World Bank. The government had envisioned a very ambitious plan for peace and security, mainly the principle of sustainable development without harming the environment. Secondly, drawing up laws that encourage the investment, setting the priorities for all the sectors, and fifthly, to concentrate on value chains and VAT. mainly concentrate on the agriculture and the agricultural products in view of our natural and immense capabilities in this field, in order at least to provide food products locally, regionally, and internationally, especially that there is an increased need for food products. The second sector is electricity and power. We are concentrating on renewable energies in order to facilitate the growth in other regions. The third sector is infrastructure building, building airports, roads, and ports in order to provide the infrastructure necessary for investment and growth. And fifth of all is the digital economy, which is the main bedrock of economy. We have been able to, through that, to provide the empowering environment for networks and networking and ICTs in order to provide all necessary factors for the government, current government, in order to build capabilities, build partnership with international, national, and regional, so Sudan can become a strategic reserve country for food products. Finally, we have concentrated on planning. We have participated in international conferences in order to build sustainable development plans, as well as bringing into line the laws and legislations that help the economy and reduce poverty. Thank you.
I thank the Honorable Minister of Investment and International Cooperation, the Republic of the Sudan, and am now pleased to hand over the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Dragan Stefanovic, the Secretary of State at the Ministry of Economy of the Republic of Serbia. Over to you, sir.
Dear organizer, dear participants, estimated colleagues, it is great honor for me to have opportunity to address you at the Ministerial Roundtable organized by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development on behalf of Serbian government and the Ministry of Economy. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for such significant and useful forum, which will contribute in the multiple ways to overcoming challenges and finding efficient and innovative solution for sustainable recovery in post-pandemic area. The COVID-19 pandemic affected our economy in 2020. However, due to stable macroeconomic performance in the years immediately before the crisis, as well as a timely package of economic measures implemented by the government, the decline in Serbia's GDP in 2020 was lower than decline in the other Western Balkan and EU countries and amounted to 1%. This result was primarily due to adoption of the timely and comprehensive package of monetary and fiscal incentives. Industrial production also made a significant contribution, recovering continuously since May last year, primarily due to the growth of the processing industry. According to the World Bank projection, GDP growth in the 2021 should amount to 6%, which demonstrated that Serbia is on the path of creating an economy which will be resistant to the global challenges and the path of the transition towards sustainable development. As an upgrade of the current industrial policy and in response to the challenge present with the modern economy, the government adopted the industrial policy strategy from 2021 to 2030. Namely, the general goal of the strategy is increasing the degree of competitiveness of our industry. We will do our best to achieve this through 5 specific goals, namely digitalization, innovation, investment, export restructuring, and the circular economy. One of the special goals of the industrial policy strategy is to increase the volume of the investment into industry with the growth of the investment quality. Through a series of activities, we will strive to encourage investment in high and medium technologies, in order to increase the added value of industrial products and promote investment. We invest effort into transforming the industry into the direction of the innovative and technology-intensive sectors. while respecting the principles of sustainable development. Digitalization as the next special goal or strategy should not be observed only as a transformation of economy, but also of society as a whole. In the age of the fourth industrial revolution, digitalization manifests itself as a prerequisite for the survival of companies on the global markets. The application of modern technological solutions in today's economy is one of the basic instruments for raising the level of competitiveness, productivity, and efficiency of economy as a whole. In the field of the digitalization, our activities will be aimed at raising awareness and strengthening the capacity in the industry through the promotion of the digitalization, education programs, as well as incentive for the companies which implement digital transformation. Innovative solutions present a precondition for the transformation of the industry from a linear to the circular model as another special goal of the strategy, whereby digitalization and the circular economy should jointly contribute to the creation of a competitive economy and a climate neutral society. The circular economy as a model of sustainable development must be very carefully coordinated, since it includes a wide range of the relevant participants and is connected with all areas of industry. In the long run, investment into green projects will have a positive impact on the competitiveness and economic growth through the creation of the new jobs and increased exports in the areas of medium and high technologies. Ministry of Economy will take a place through the promotion of the circular business model and education of companies with an aim to implement sustainable business solution. In the hope that we will be able to overcome all the challenges of the current global situation with the joint efforts and creative ideas, and at the same time provide a sustainable recovery for our economies, I would like to thank you for your attention and wish you good health and successful work. Thank you and all the best.
I thank you, Excellency Stefanovic, and now have the honor to hand over the floor to His Excellency Mr. Sadi Khudirzada, the Chairman of the State Committee on Investment and State Property Management of the Republic of Tajikistan. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished Secretary General, colleagues, I want to express my sincere gratitude to UNCTAD for the fruitful cooperation, and I wish the participants of this forum successful results. Tajikistan, at the heart of Central Asia, has always served as a bridge between various civilizations. It's a crossroads of cultural and trade, commercial exchange. Based on its historic role, modern-day Tajikistan, since it's acquiring independence, thanks to its open doors policy of the government, continues its national economic reforms to create conducive investment climate, business environment, and developing commerce. We continue to be committed to conducting reforms in that area, since we believe that the risk of a post-pandemic impacting on the recovery is as high as it was before. Therefore, we are trying to speed up investment projects to enhance the efficiency of results of the National Development Reform Project of Tajikistan. Has tried to unify, to merge the SDGs in the priorities of the project and tries to open up to private investment. This approach is testament to the importance of involving the private sector in ensuring sustainable development of the national economy in the long run. Tajikistan has key preconditions for conducting investment, including political and macroeconomic stability. The post-pandemic recovery in the private sector continues, as well as consumption among the population. In that regard, adaptation of the whole of the population as a whole to the new realities continues. And as per October 2021, economic growth in the country reached 9%. The percentage of the private sector's share in GDP is 70%. The country sets great store by ongoing improvement to the legal environment for investment and commercial activities, including in view of the recommendations of the UN Conference on Trade and Development. In the last 2 years alone, with a goal of adapting the country's economy to the demands of the WTO, we adopted more than 100 legal acts, including more than 40 new laws. Engaging international experts, cooperation with development partners we've developed and are implementing a law on investment, on state protection of entrepreneurship, and a series of other legal normative acts. Tajikistan has bilateral agreements on promoting investment with many countries. We have agreements to prevent the dual taxation. Tajikistan has ratified the UN Convention on recognizing and implementing decisions of international arbitration, and also as part of the investment agreements treaty, companies can carry out major investment projects and they will receive special tax exemptions and guarantees based on the specificities of the project. We've created a single window for company registration of legal entities and individual entrepreneurs to receive licenses for construction, for building power plants, for registering properties, streamlining economic activities. And there's now online services to providing services to entrepreneurs. Thanks to fundamental reforms, Tajikistan has now raised its ranking in a number of international ratings and is considered to be one of the top reformers. Colleagues, the impact of COVID to the global economy are still being felt, and it makes international investors all the more cautious. Under such consequences, we need to draw on mechanisms to ensure access for investors to reliable sources of information on existing opportunities. In that regard, our country, to enhance the level of investment into sustainable recovery and maintain positive trends, proposes consolidating efforts to establish new cooperation instruments. A practical implementation of this initiative requires active mainstreaming of digital technologies with the emphasis on broad industrialization and developing human capacities. In conclusion, I wish you all good health and success and implementing new initiatives to develop trade and investment. I thank you.
Honorable Ministers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to extend my appreciation to the UNCTAD Secretariat for their continuous efforts to organize this flagship event, which has been a productive platform for policymakers and foreign direct investment practitioners. In these challenging times, such events have been more and more important for discussing sustainable solutions for global challenges and providing vital inputs for national economic development policies. As a developing economy, Turkey considers FDI as a main component of its economic development, and with this perspective has implemented sweeping reforms to attract quality investments in sustainable terms. We believe that quality FDIs can make significant contributions to a country's sustainable economic development. Moreover, incorporating the Sustainable Development Goals into your FDI's attraction strategy can bring virtuous benefits to all sections of the society. Therefore, policymakers should develop novel strategies that are more inclusive and SDG-oriented. Cognizant of that, Turkey has recently revised its FDI strategy and made SDGs as one of the main pillars of its investment promotion policy. As such, our priorities have been redefined to achieve certain elements of SDG through FDI, such as affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities, responsible production and consumption, and climate action. FDI flows have dramatically decreased due to the pandemic in 2020, and their recovery is uneven between different regions in the world. For example, while Asia is set to recover in a more robust way, Africa and Latin America is lagging behind. Attracting FDIs is becoming more and more difficult due to the unexpected challenges such as the pandemic, uncertainty in international policy governance, such as increasing protectionism, economic crisis, and geopolitical risks. On the other hand, environmental policies and green deals that have been adopted by major trading blocs are now becoming an integral and determining part of international trade and investments. Moreover, multinational companies have also been increasingly incorporating environmental, social, and governance principles into their investment and production strategies. These developments have profound impact on how goods and services are produced across the world and will make attracting international investments more challenging. Against this background, it is imperative for countries to create a favorable environment for sustainable investments. Legal, physical, and technological infrastructure should be developed and improved in line with the changing international investment trends and practices. Public and private sector cooperation is also very important, especially when engaging with investors in priority industries. While assessing our economic and investment needs will determine the focal point of our policies, aligning those policies with the key trends in each industry is equally important. Therefore, investment promotion agencies also should develop a proactive approach with a sectoral focus to attract the investments needed for their economic development. Distinguished participants, I'd like to also note that national policies are not enough to tackle with the problems we are facing today. A global and coordinated approach is needed for reforming the policies, strengthen multilateralism, and create new platforms for global cooperation. Especially the pandemic and the challenges related to climate change have showed us that to deal with global issues, we must all act globally. We must act in a sense of urgency to put forward global endeavors for enlarging the basis in health and green technologies around the world, especially in developing countries. The FDIs can play a pivotal role in this respect, and we must create an enabling environment for investments in those areas. Especially investments in low carbon technologies and sustainable infrastructure can foster economic growth, address inequalities, and accelerate the information transformation towards climate resilient economies, while spreading the health technologies and industries around the world may provide stronger and global response capabilities in the face of future health crises. With the rapid transformation of production and service technologies, digitalization has also been a key factor for sustainable investments, and in this respect, tackling with the digital divide should be also a global priority. Developing common standards, enabling technology transfer, fostering multilateral actions for financing the development for new technologies and for facilitating the IP protection can be potential cooperation topics for boosting international investments in these areas. On the other hand, we all know that many countries, especially least developed countries, need technical assistance and financial resources in order to catch up with a rapidly changing global economic landscape. In all these issues, meaningful results can be achieved only through global cooperation with a multilateral approach. We should put investments in sustainability and sustainability of investments at the heart of both our national policies and our global endeavors. Turkey is doing its part in this respect in all the global platforms, and it participates and is ready to take more responsibilities in future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. And now our next speaker I will give the floor to is His Excellency Mr. Tran Quo Phong, the Deputy Minister of Planning and Investment, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, I am very pleased having the representative of the Ministry of Planning and Investment of Vietnam to share from Hanoi with you about Vietnam's experience on investment for sustainable development and recovering the economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. Vietnam's economy has been heavily affected by the pandemic's economic growth in 2020 and 9 months of the 2021 is very low compared to the pre-pandemic period. Production and circulation of goods has been halted. Businesses and people have faced with multiple difficulties. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic may last long after the end of the pandemic, negatively affecting the implementation of long-term goals and vision. Over the past few months, Vietnam has taken many drastic and unprecedented solutions to prevent and control the pandemic. As a result, the pandemic has been gradually controlled and the economy has entered the recovery trajectory. However, the issued solutions have been mainly for short-term implementation, not really strongly supporting businesses. The business community and the people still face many difficulties in the coming time. Vietnam is developing an economic recovery and development program for the period of 2022 and 2023 with the goal of socio-economic recovery and development, adapting to safety, flexibility, effective control of the COVID-19 pandemic, accelerating the process of restructuring, improving productivity, quality, and competitiveness of the economy, developing digital infrastructure, digital economy, and digital society, quickly recovering, overcoming the healing, the hurt of the economy caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring the social security, social welfare, medical quality, mental health for the population and the working people. In the Economic Recovery and Development Program for the period of 2022 and 2023, there are multiple groups of solutions and policies, including policies on development investments, in order to accelerate disbursement to soon put public investment projects into use, focus on preparing and investing in key infrastructure project connections, especially road traffic, railways, urban railway, seaport, with an emphasis on urban infrastructure and environment. Attract large modern FDI projects associated with technology transfer with high added value, spillover effects, connect global production and supply chains, solve difficulties and bottlenecks of investment projects, including PPP projects. Develop housing for workers and working people in industrial park and economic zones. Vietnam always hopes that investors will continue to remain with Vietnam for a long time and look forward to continuing close, long-term and effective cooperation with UNCTAD in implementing sustainable technical assistance. Thank you for your attention and wishing you all good health and success.
I thank His Excellency, the Deputy Minister of Planning and Investment of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. And it is now my pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Olga Algayerova, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. You have the floor, Madam.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, let me congratulate UNCTAD's Investment Division for pulling off a highly successful World Investment Forum. WIF is clearly recognized as the preeminent global gathering for investment partnership and policymaking. Let me also congratulate UNCTAD for the World Investment Report, a much respected flagship publication of the United Nations. I will engage in today's discussion by picking up on the findings of the 2021 WIR. I will do so from the perspective of countries with economies in transition. As you may know, UNEC's membership covers 56 countries in the pan-European region, spanning from North America over Europe until Central Asia. And many of those countries are countries with economies in transition. And I'm very glad to see several of them here today. According to UNCTAD WIR, foreign direct investment flows to transitional economies declined by 58%, the lowest level since 2003. And the number of announcements of international project finance deals fell sharply from 59 to 31. And that is the largest relative drop among all regions of the world. These are two truly worrying findings. It is clear that investment is needed as a driver for the inclusive, sustainable, and resilient recovery. Investment is also needed for the transition to a more circular economy, a key objective of UNEC membership as set out in our 69th Commission session earlier this year. It is therefore important that international organizations in the UN and beyond join hands in supporting their membership in harnessing the power of investment for the SDGs, for the recovery, and for the circular economy transition. So what can UNEC contribute? Excellencies, distinguished speakers, at UNEC, we put our normative tools at the service of our membership. UNEC's people-first approach to public-private partnerships for the SDGs can help governments to leverage private sector investment in SDG-compliant infrastructure projects through PPPs. It can help close the financing gap. And let me flag two concrete tools in this regard. First, our guidelines on people-first PPPs for the SDGs. They provide overall policy guidance to ensure that PPPs not only bring value for money, but also value for people and the planet. Second, our evaluation methodology. This is a tool to evaluate and score infrastructure projects and their compliance to the SDGs. Both tools go beyond assessing economic effectiveness and instead also look at questions of access and equity, stakeholder engagement, environmental sustainability, and resilience, which has now taken a new meaning in the post-COVID-19 recovery. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, UNCTAD's World Investment Report 2021 highlights the importance, but also the challenges in the use of project finance, which is the financing vehicle by which public-private partnerships are delivered. The WIR calls for maximizing sustainable and inclusive impact. It calls for improving governance mechanism and contracts to anticipate risks to social and environmental standards of the projects. Clearly, these objectives should be among countries' key priorities for investment policy making in the coming years. And clearly, these are also areas where UNEC's normative tools on people first PPPs for the SDGs can come in. UNEC's guidelines and evaluation methodology on people first PPPs for the SDGs can support countries in the UNEC region and also beyond. UNEC guidelines and our evaluation methodology can support the objectives spelled out in UNCTAD's action plan for investment in the SDGs. Dear colleagues, excellencies, at UNEC, we stand always ready to engage.
Thank you very much, Ms. Olga Algayerova, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And now, last but not least, on our list, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Mari Elka Pangestu, the Managing Director of Development Policy and Partnership at the World Bank. Ms. Pangestu, the pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Excellencies, dear colleagues, I'm honored to be part of the high-level Ministerial Roundtable on Sustainable Development at the 7th World Investment Forum. I would like to thank UNCTAD for inviting me to share this message. As the World Bank Group responds to the COVID-19 crisis, we're also looking ahead, emphasizing the need to address multiple critical challenges, including climate change, which are exacerbating poverty and inequality. Countries need to achieve lasting economic growth without degrading the environment or aggravating inequality. We are linking short and long-term solutions to help developing countries address COVID-19 while laying the foundations for a green, resilient, and inclusive recovery. The goal is really to achieve growth that is, first of all, green. As the largest provider of climate finance to the developing world, we are integrating climate into all our country diagnostics and strategies. Second, we want growth that is resilient. We are stepping up efforts to help countries become more resilient. This includes resilient infrastructure, emergency response protocols, disaster risk financing, safety nets, and risk transfer solutions. We also, most importantly, want growth to be inclusive. We are helping countries plan and implement urgent social protection measures with over $10 billion in World Bank financing, reaching more than 1 billion people. To pursue this agenda, governments will need to undertake large-scale investments in human, physical, natural, and social capital to address structural weaknesses and promote economic growth. As the needs are vast, involvement of the private sector and the international community is vital. The pandemic has rapidly advanced the digitization of the private sector, mitigating against business risks, increasing efficiency, and offering opportunities in green sectors. However, World Bank analysis shows that supply chain reliability has been a persistent problem during the pandemic and continues to impact 1/3 of surveyed firms in developing countries. There is much scope for investment in digital technology to promote efficiency. Financing the sustainability and decarbonization of value chains will be key in achieving a robust, equitable, and durable recovery. Globally, we are seeing a trend towards sustainability in multinational enterprise operations. World Bank Group surveys suggest that about 3/4 or 73% of multinational enterprise affiliates are taking steps to increase sustainability and decarbonize their products and services in 2020. This trend is likely to accelerate, presenting an opportunity to transform private sector activity through sustainable investments. By doing so, countries can strengthen their recoveries, stimulate resilient growth, and bolster long-term competitiveness. However, making more supply chains more sustainable will require a specific mix of policies to help the private sector transition. I will highlight 3 key areas. First, help firms and industries decarbonize by integrating renewable energies, adopting low carbon technologies, and green management practices. Second, ensure industry resilience. We can help prepare industries and value chains for natural disasters. Third, support countries as they adopt policies to attract investment and increase sustainability. This includes improving legal and regulatory frameworks for the entry and operations of foreign and domestic firms. It is also important to make sure that local firms are capable of supplying businesses that demand higher environmental standards. This helps develop local green supply chains. Identifying and capitalizing on these reform opportunities will not be easy for developing countries. International organizations, such as the World Bank Group, can help countries realize reforms that accelerate a transition to green, resilient, and sustainable development. One critical vehicle will be IDA, our Fund for the Poorest, which we are replenishing right now. Since the beginning of the crisis, IDA has committed more than $56 billion to save lives, protect poor people, support jobs, and help countries rebuild better. We look forward to continue our collaboration to get back on track to reduce poverty through sustainable growth and deliver a better future for people and planet.
I thank Ms. Mary Pangestu, the Managing Director of Development Policy and Partnership at the World Bank, for her statement. This now brings to a close, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the presentations of the World Investment Forum Ministerial Roundtable on Investing in Sustainable Development. I would like to thank the panelists, the audience, and everybody who has supported to make this roundtable a success. My special thanks and appreciation goes to the interpreters, who I understand was not an easy task. Thank you very much. And also to our own very competent team who has helped us throughout. This is Alex, Natalia, Connor, Beth, and also John and his colleagues. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you at the next World Investment Forum.